There are studies, actually, this is really interesting about social responsibility, that find that people who choose not to vaccinate tend to be a lot more prejudiced, again, like more racist. And it's not that they started out racist, it's that there's this fear, this vulnerability that their children have. And they are afraid when they sort of see brown people, they see brown people as these vectors of disease. And that's kind of something that they're actually looking at, is that actually vaccinating is an anti-racist act, which I think is that's sort of a fringe view, but I think it's really interesting. And that, there are...
So deeply offended by that in life right now?
I'm sure.
The whooping cough vaccine does not prevent colonization and transmission per an FDA study, per neither does polio. The flu vaccine doesn't prevent mucosal infection.
Okay,
it cannot
I'm sorry.
You have to bring it back to what the products can do, the science
I'm
of the
sure,
products.
Yeah,
the science of the products. The product cannot prevent this.
This is just like, I don't know why you guys are shouting at me, because clearly you're not getting through. So I don't know why, what the point is.
I'm a journalist, and I'm begging of you we have severely vaccine-injured children, legitimately vaccine-injured children. And so this is...
I'm sorry to hear that. And that does happen.
And you are a
that is real.
reporter, and you have not dug beneath the surface, even though that's what you're claiming to do. And this is one of the biggest, this is like the most important thing I will ever do, is have conversations here with you. I don't think you guys can understand how important this is. Why is the only measles vaccine on the market the controversial MMR with the rubella portion that contains the fetal DNA fragments that causes insertional mutagenesis? I mean, this is legitimate science. This isn't Bernadette science.
I'm a nurse and my child is well vaccinated. And I would vaccinate myself to not infect your child.
But the vaccines aren't capable of doing that. The pertussis vaccine can't prevent colonization and transmission. Newborns are catching whooping cough.
Hey, I think we're done, Bernadette. Thank you. Go ahead.
I had a question getting back to your comment that public health in general is not doing a good job of discussing with parents. And what messages would you want, providers or public health? I mean, okay, didn't know if there...
I don't want to be like, public health is terrible at this. I just want to also say that the reporting I've done, it seems like they're pretty stumped. I think one of the quotes I had from Paul Throne, do you guys know who that is? He was like, this is a puzzle to us. We don't know what to do. And I think that's really interesting. In the Somali community, they've actually done a lot. They have all these graphic novels that I think are really interesting, and they do sort of peer-to-peer talking. Because in the Somali community, there's a lot of parents who choose not to vaccinate their kids for the MMR. And what's that? They think, so I've interviewed several Somali moms who have told me, well, the white ladies aren't doing it, so why should we? Now, that's not like a study that says that. That is 2 people I've spoken with. But to me, that said a lot, that maybe they know something that we don't know. Here.
This is just another question about journalism and the bigger picture in healthcare reporting. Because what I find interesting about this whole dynamic and is an aspect of healthcare is that this exploration of, and I think you're alluding to it, that we have a strongly authoritarian model, medical model, that is catered to privileged people. It's a for-profit model, so it is automatically built and catered to privileged people. And so I'm just wondering, because I think it's interesting in this area of concern about vaccines and fears about, because I have lots of friends of color who have their concerns about vaccines for very different reasons. And when you talk more in depth with them, it exposes a whole other avenue of what their experience is with the healthcare system in general. And I feel like that voice is not adequately represented in this discussion, because it gets you to what you're saying, where if you're the authority, I have the microphone, right? and I have the white coat, and you have to do what I say, and you're given a lot of credibility by society in general. I mean, I think that, and I think that, and then there's this litany of it. That's where it gets back to. There's this litany of information that's represented as journalism out there, even if it's not. That it makes me totally understand why somebody would be so overwhelmed by this and understanding and not sure what's real. I think it's creating its own problem, and I feel like there are key voices that are not being put up to the forefront that could really highlight why there is some legitimate reasons for mistrust of the system.